I'm here with Chad Arruda and Adam Bigelow, both combat veterans of the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. And since then, both active in helping fellow veterans through your work with the PTSD Foundation of America. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Chad, I'd like to start with you and just ask if you could tell us a little bit about yourself. Where'd you grow up and why'd you decide to join the Army?
So I originally grew up in Connecticut. I moved out to Arizona in, around like 93. Went into the military in 2006. Been a childhood dream, running around, playing soldier, watching Arnold Schwarzenegger and Commando. I think, probably everyone's favorite movie that, had spent some time in the military. It's just a childhood dream. So I went in the military in 2006, and I went to combat in 2007 and 2008 with the 82nd Airborne Division, 4th Brigade Combat Team. Great experience, changed my life in a lot of different ways. And I was fortunate enough to, when I got out of the military, I ended up getting a job with a company called Global Integrated Securities out of London, and we were providing high threat security for Department of Defense in Afghanistan as part of the product reconstruction team. So, I went over there, fought in a war, and then I was trying to help rebuild, build back the country. So it was pretty cool. I got to do a lot of things. And I ended up, providing security both to the Department of Defense, State Department, and I actually worked for the Afghan government directly, protecting a hydroelectric dam down in Helmand province, running a small Afghan security force. So that was cool. And then decided to come back home, change of pace. Spent a lot of time in Afghanistan, a little over between 4.5 to 5 years. And I was like, I need to change it up. So I decided to take a job with the State Department providing diplomatic security in Iraq at the embassy in 2015. In the interim time, I was waiting for my security clearance to go through, and I ended up starting a local security company here called Wyndham Security Strategies today. And we're a big employment, or big veteran employer. We're right around a little over 100 employees. 90% are veteran or former law enforcement. So kind of, that's in a nutshell, that's kind of what I've been up to.
That's really fantastic. So same question for you, Adam. Where'd you grow up and how'd you end up deciding to join the Army?
Yeah, so I was born in Michigan, in Grand Rapids. Moved out here to Arizona early in the 3rd grade. Went through high school out here and everything like that. I actually, same thing, I've always played Army and wanted to be Army, and I tried to sign up when I was 17, but at that time I just recently had surgery on my hand from playing football at Greenway High School, and at that time there was no wars or anything going on, so there was no rush. So they're like, you got to get clearance, and it took about 10 months, and they came back and said, oh, you're cleared. And I was like, well, I have a new job, and I'm not going to go in. So I always kind of kicked myself in the butt for that. I became a mechanic. I've always wanted to get into firefighting and things like that. So I started pursuing that, and then and I was told you need your EMT, you need this. So I was like, well, all right, what do I do? I'm like, well, I'm gonna go check the Army out, and that's when I knew that medics, you go through and you get licensed through your EMTs and things like that. So I figured it'd be a first step. And then once I was in, I was hooked. I didn't want to get out. And so I was with the cavalry, the 1st Cav Division. I was with Old Ironsides. I was with another unit in NTC. I've deployed to Iraq twice. I became a flight medic, went to Afghanistan. And it's really it in a nutshell. Like I think I joined just for everybody else, and some of us are combat vets. We join also to get away from the life that we're living. In your 20s, you're kind of doing things that are not the best, and sometimes a lot of us are like, well, how do I get away from it? I'm like, well, I'm going to join the Army, and now I'm away from it. So that's really it.
I think that's a time-honored story for many people in the military, for sure. Chad, back to you. At one point after your active duty service, and then really serving in a similar capacity, but through these private organizations, when did you connect with the PTSD Foundation of America, and what really drove you in that direction?
So for years now, I've had a battle buddy of mine, a brother in arms that has been struggling really bad with drug and alcohol abuse, multiple attempts of suicide, and it was just killing me. Just, there wasn't anything that I could do to help him. I tried to go over and visit with him, try and talk with him, but it just, couldn't get him off the couch, couldn't get him motivated, and it's just kind of like felt like he was a lost cause almost, And then early 2018, there's a company called Greystar that we do business with on the security side of things, but they also support the PTSD Foundation of America is one of their top nonprofits that they're involved with. And I was at a local meeting here, like an AMC Connect. You go and you meet people within the industry, and I heard a story from a lady called Andrina Shields, and about the story of her son and how she was trying to get him out to Camp Hope, and he ended up taking his life in the interim there. And the PTSD Foundation, they've been around since 2009. They're in 16 major cities across the United States. And, the PTSD Foundation wasn't here. And they also have an interim housing facility for those veterans that really, really struggle. We find them through our weekly group meetings, and it's an interim housing facility in Houston, Texas. It's on 5 acres, can house up to 100 veterans at any given time. And I'll let Adam get more in depth about that. But long story short, I was like, well, what if I helped get involved here? No nonprofit experience before. I volunteered on some things within the community, but not anywhere near on the level of my involvement as now. It's really, shed light in my life on a lot of different ways. But it started in 2018. In the spring and the summertime, we went out and visited Camp Hope, and I was hooked. I was like, I really want to help bring Camp Hope to his name's Felix. I was like, I want to bring Camp Hope to him, and hopefully we can get him help here. Because at the time, I found out about this wonderful organization that's saving so many lives, but he couldn't leave the state of Arizona because he attempted suicide at his parents' house. And he ended up, trying to shoot himself. Didn't go through with it, but he still fired the gun, so he's on, hit with a felony charge and shooting off a firearm within city limits, and so he's on probation. So, we try to bring Camp Hope here to him, try to bring the PTSD Foundation here, and get it going.
Well, that's really great of you for a brother in arms to continue working so hard on his behalf. So really, for both of you, PTSD is personal. It's a personal thing, and I want to talk to you, Adam. You're a survivor, and you were almost one of those veterans whose lives was claimed by post-traumatic stress. Can you tell us about that day where a well-timed call from your wife, I believe it was, literally saved your life?
Yeah, it was. I was in my lowest moment. Leading up to that, I had my issues, and when I was in Afghanistan, my third deployment is when I started noticing I was having a lot of different issues, and I reached out. We all do like the post health assessment on the little PDAs, and what you've seen, if it's been dead bodies or whatever. And the last question is, do you want help? Do you want to see somebody? And I checked yes, and nobody contacted me. Nobody got a hold of me. And when I got home, I really started getting into alcohol. Same thing. We did it once we come stateside. You do that all over again, And right there, I was like, yeah, I want to talk to somebody. And nobody did anything again. So it kind of spiraled even more, and I started getting to drugs and alcohol until it was this, until I couldn't do it anymore. And it was actually during Christmas time. I sent my family back here to Arizona, and told them I'd be coming in a couple of days to meet up with them, because I told them I had some work stuff to do. And I got on my knees in my bedroom, and I put my pistol in my mouth, and I know it sounds cliche, like movie thing, but I was honestly starting putting pressure on the trigger, and my phone rang, and it's a picture of my wife with our kids, and that's what it saved my life. Like, just seeing them, it just pulled the pistol out, and that's when I knew, I'm like, I need a lot of help. So that was really basically it. I needed help. That's where I got involved with the foundation, which also saved my life. Because there's something about going somewhere that's not clinical, but sitting with other combat veterans that have been through it and are going through it, and being able to share the stories and connection with each other, and know that all those feelings that you're feeling, you're not alone in that. So many are suffering and dealing with the same things. And it just absolutely saved my life. And I did all my groups in Washington, in our chapter there. And I came back to Arizona, and we weren't here yet. The foundation wasn't here yet. And it's with mental health, when you don't have that support and you don't have those things, you start sliding back very rapidly. You can be 2 years in programming, and without support, you start rapidly going back. I went to school for welding. I went to school for furniture making. And then I was like, well, I don't like working around people. I don't like these environments still. So I'm going to get my CDL and I'm going to drive a truck. I'll be all by myself. And then I realized, I'm like, well, that's not a place where someone that's always in their head to be is alone for most of the time. And I just started really struggling. And I always say God uses the phone to save me, because I was doing a haul to California, and the mentor I had that was in Washington chapter, he called me and said, hey, we have an opportunity and a need in Arizona to start a chapter, and we thought of you, and would you be interested? And so we talked for about a couple hours. I pulled the truck over at a truck stop. We talked for a while, and the foundation flew me over to Camp Hope just to check it out like that, because I never went to Camp Hope myself. I was just in our warrior groups and mentoring sessions with a mentor. So I was there, and I was like, yeah, absolutely want to be involved. So they're like, all right, well, go ahead and, if you're ready, give your work, 2 weeks notice, and we'll get you started. And I was like, well, I already gave them 2 weeks notice, and I'm ready to start tomorrow. And we've been hitting the ground running ever since. We started in a building, another security company that let us use our facilities with 4 veterans. And then it grew that group to 20, to now it's 2 groups, to 3 groups, to 4 groups. And we're really getting out in the community, doing events with community. And then it's just, obviously COVID hurt a lot of the nation. Not being face-to-face with people, it's really hurt. So we integrated Zoom, which I know everybody's kind of done with and tired of. But on that aspect as well, is we are now reaching more veterans than we have before. Because of the Zoom, now I have veterans that are from Tennessee, Maryland, Oregon, all around the country, because now they can just join on right there and there, and they don't have to have a chapter in their state. So yeah, it's been very opening, but we are now back to in-person meetings again, which is amazing, and we're continuing to grow back again. We have 1 in-person meeting right now, soon to be 2, and hopefully a month after that it'll be number 3 again. So yeah, we're just really out there we always try to be the people that we didn't have when we were really, really going through it. And I'm very, very proud of it all. And it's one thing that we really started in Arizona too, as a family group, because we did realize that there's so many things out there for veterans if they would utilize them to get help, but we're not helping the families. And so veterans are going off to places, getting help, and then coming home into a broken home that's broken because of them and their issues that they were going through. So we really started pushing, and we couldn't think of anybody that was better than my wife, because she's been through it with me. So she's our family support coordinator out here, and she's amazing. She helps all the families, and when we say families, it's not just mom, dad, wife. It's anybody that is in that veteran's life. That is family, and they need to get the help as well. And our family group's a whole different dynamic. It's all about helping the family. It's not teaching the family how to react to their veteran or what you shouldn't say and things like that, because a lot of groups do that. It's more like, no, like, your veteran's off getting help. Like, this is a time for you to work on yourself, work on your boundaries, what's healthy for you. And then when the veteran comes home, now we can all work together and creating a safe place for everybody. So, yeah.
So this is veterans helping veterans.
Yes.
And I know the mission of the PTSD Foundation is specific to combat veterans. Why is that distinction important?
The peer-to-peer support, like you had touched on, it's not a clinical setting. Like, I'm not going into the VA and talking to someone that just graduated from med school and trying to tell them about my problems, because they'll never understand, what's going through my mind, what I feel inside, my highs, my lows, or, my day-to-day, or, frustrations and stuff. Like, they'll never know. And then it's even more detrimental to me, I feel as though, was when they try to tell you to do, breathing routines at night before you go to bed and stuff like that. Like, I can't talk to somebody that understands. I can't talk to them like, oh, you remember this, how, when we did this in the Army, or this SOP, or whatnot. It's that peer-to-peer support. The camaraderie comes back. There's trust that's involved. And that's what makes the PTSD Foundation of America so unique, is it's all based off of peer-to-peer support from combat veterans only. And, everyone at Camp Hope has been through the Camp Hope program, and all the employees, the staff, they're all been through Camp Hope. So you want to be a mentor, it's all combat veterans. The camaraderie, I think, and the brotherhood that it brings back is unlike any other organization that you're going to find that's out there. And you just, within a few minutes, it's not for everybody. It's not an end all be all, but there are a lot of people that it does work for, and you can relate, and it's a big trust thing,
Adam, you mentioned the warrior groups. That seems like really a cornerstone component of this program.
It is, absolutely. Not everybody needs inpatient care. Some just need that camaraderie or that support from their brothers and sisters to just deal with what they're dealing with in life. So those are very key, and it's also key for aftercare. So when someone does go to an inpatient program, if it's ours or someone else's, they can come to us, and now they have that support. Because that's one of the worst things. That's what happened to me, is I went and got help, but I had no aftercare after it. So you just kind of slide back. And with us, you can come and still have mentorship and fellowship with your fellow combat veterans. And to kind of touch on like what you're talking about with Chad, like why we just specifically do combat, that doesn't mean that nobody else is worthy or they don't have issues, but it'd be like sending an alcoholic to a drug program, or sending a drug addict to an alcohol program. Like, you send people to where they can get the help that they need for their specific reasons. Trauma is trauma, it is. But combat guys, and as veterans, we all know, like, you can sit in a room of veterans, and for some reason and somehow, all the combat veterans start coming together, and they just start talking and like clicking. It's just that it's that camaraderie, that's that stuff that you went through that other people just don't understand what you've seen, like the different countries and the way of life that's there, and all of the chaos that's involved with it. So it's so important. And I just wanted to be able to say that, because we're not saying that you're a veteran, if you didn't go deploy, that you don't matter or your traumas don't matter. It's just, we specialize in combat. And just like, and even if you're not combat and you need help and you don't know where to reach, call us. We started a whole coalition out here with a lot of different organizations to be able to do that. Like, so someone calls, like, we're not a fit for you, but I'm going to give your number to this person, and they're going to reach out to you, and they'll be able to help you in that aspect. If it's financial, if it's housing, if it's jobs, whatever it is, we work all together so we can help that veteran and their families on every aspect that's needed. Yeah.
So what would you say to someone who is watching this, a combat veteran who's struggling with PTSD, and maybe they're not sure they need help or want help? What would you say to them?
We are trained in the military that asking for help is weakness, or mental health is weakness. And going through this in my life, I realized that it is the hardest, and it takes the most strength of anything to be able to reach out and just ask for help. If you're struggling, reach out, you're not alone. All it is if you can get over that first hurdle of calling and asking, it gets easier and easier. If you're not sure, call. If you're even battling those questions, like, I don't know if I should need help, I don't know, more than likely, if you're already in your head asking that question to yourself, you can use help. And there's different levels. Obviously mental health in our day and age is rampant, but there are so many different levels, and that's one thing that's amazing about having that support group like what we have is you have guys that do very, very well, that have some episodes once in a while, and you have ones that are really, really struggling, and everywhere in between. So you get to feed off of each other and learn from each other, like, all the things I've tried that didn't work. I can tell you everything I tried. I'm not saying that they don't work for you. I'm telling you to go out and try everything. Like, that's what I do. Like, everything that is offered, I'm like, I'm going. If it doesn't work, okay, it didn't work, or I didn't enjoy it. But that's not the end of the world. There's something else. And so just keep trying and trying, and just know you're not alone. And it takes a lot of strength. You're not weak. You're not broken. That's one thing with PTSD. A lot of people think that we're broken or something went wrong. And if you actually look at the science of the brain, everything worked completely correct. That fight, that flight, that is your brain's response to that stuff. It's just something got little thing where we're stuck there. It's not that you're broken. Everything worked perfectly. But now we just got to retrain your brains to live a normal, or what we call a new normal life. Obviously all of us combat vets, we will never be the person we were before we saw combat. There's always going to be aspects of us that, yes, are the same, but we're always going to have a different take on a lot of different things because of the things we went through. And that's okay. Like, that's all right. Just take ownership of, like, yeah, this is my life. I went through it. It's a chapter. It's not written in stone where, like, this is where I have to be stuck at. Like, I went through this, so that's where I have to live my life. That's not it. Like, that's just a chapter. Your life's a whole book, and you're in chapter 2. So let's move from chapter 2 and get into chapter 3, so we can keep writing chapter 4 and 5 and 6, so you can become the person that you want to become, so you can enjoy life again. And that's the one thing I will say, you cannot do it alone. It's not just that you're not alone. You can't do it alone. I have, in 3 years that I've been doing this, and in all the stuff that I've been through, I've not met one person yet that said, you know something, I have issues and I did it all by myself and fixed myself and I'm good. Not one, because everybody needed help. They could not do it on themselves. So that's what I would tell anybody that wants help, and just reach out.
And if someone does reach out, what's that journey like? They reach out and they say, hey, I'm really struggling. I need some help. What does that journey look like for them?
Well, I mean, they reach out depending on their situation. We might try to get them out to Camp Hope right away, notify Camp Hope, and see if they could send a team out to get them. Or, Adam, he's doing crisis calls all the time. So, they've pulled people off of overpasses trying to jump. Worked with Phoenix PD, pulling them out of, meth houses and stuff. So, like, these guys, Adam and his team, they get involved. They see a lot of things. They do a lot of stuff. Like, depending on the situation, it's all case by case basis. I mean, I'll let you take it over.
Yeah, it's sorry, I lost the question.
What's the journey like for someone who reaches out? Like, what can they expect to happen next?
Pure support. Someone that understands. And I like that you said it's a journey, because that's the same word I use in all of our groups and everyone I talk to, because it is a journey. And it's like I said before, the hardest part is reaching out the first time. From there, usually when I talk to somebody, within the first 10 minutes, they get comfortable and they're like, oh, wow, wait, like you're telling me the same things that are going on with me that are going on with you. Because that's also what I do. I'm like, I don't be like, what can I help you? I want to introduce myself and let them know what I've been through as well. So you make that connection off the bat. And, I've had guys that have seen me on the news and they've come to our groups with arms crossed and like, I'm not going to talk. My wife is making me be here. I don't want to talk to you guys. And 3 years later, and they're still in group, and they've been in group every week, because they have that connection. And that's another thing too. A lot of people are like, well, 3 years in group. It's consistently, it's the journey. And when you get to a point in your journey where you're doing very well, now it's time to step up and be that leader also. And so now, because you will always have new guys coming in, so being more people that are doing very well and still coming to group and now being there to support each other. It's not just me. Like, that's what I tell everybody. It's not just me who's your support. Everybody in this room, that's your support. You don't, if you don't want to reach out to me, don't reach out to me. Reach out to so-and-so or so-and-so, and it really, I haven't had really anybody that's like off the bat, like, oh, no, like I'm not comfortable. It really is. It's just, it's hard to explain because it's such a crazy feeling, of that connection really quick. So yeah, it is definitely a journey. And it's one thing I love about the foundation, and that's one thing that helped me too, is when that's the journey, we don't sugarcoat. We're not a kumbaya kind of group. The journey is going to be hard. There's going to be ups and downs. But as long as, I know if my group members see this, I always have a whiteboard, but I always do a graph. And, if you're here at a low and you want to go up, that's the trajectory we want you. Now, what's going to happen is this. You're going to go up. You're going to go low. You're going to be lower than you have before because you're working on yourself. You're working on your trauma. But as long as you continually go up and you keep fighting and fighting and fighting, it's completely worth it. And one day you'll literally, that's what happened to me. I fought it and I kept working. And then one day I literally woke up, and when I say I woke up and felt different, that's what it was. Like, I didn't feel the same anymore. I was like, what is going on? And I just felt 10 times lighter because you just work on yourself. But again, you're not alone. Like, it's a team. So we're going to be in that journey with you, and we're going to help you out.
I expect that you all have a lot of success stories in this program. Any that stick out to you? I mean, other than you, of course, Adam.
Yeah, I have. Well, actually, Chad kind of mentioned on it. One of the ones we went on to a crisis call. That was actually my second crisis call since I started, and we went down into South Phoenix, into an apartment complex. That was basically a meth house. I say meth house, but it's a meth apartment complex. It was just drugs everywhere. It was dirty. And we went there because a person in my group said, hey, my cousin is also a combat vet, and this is what he's going through. And I haven't talked to him for a long time because he won't reach out, but I know where he lives. And we said, all right, let's go. And I called the Phoenix Police Department, their crisis line, just to have some backup, because it's like, all right, we're going into a place that we haven't been before. And they were really, really good at, backing us up. They didn't come in at first. That's why it's a funny story. But so we knocked on the door, and I actually brought 5 other combat veterans with me. And at first, obviously, you can tell, little what's going on, but even there, being not in the right mind frame and being high on drugs, being with 5 other combat veterans who start talking to you, there was a connection. That connection almost got lost because some police officers walked in down the hallway, but we diverted that real quick. And it was like, hey, it's down there. Your call that you're going to is over there. So that saved that. We got him to Camp Hope the next day. And he completed the program. He moved back to San Antonio for a little bit. That's where his family is. And now he is on staff as a mentor at Camp Hope. So when you see the kind of guy, 130 pounds wet when we picked him up, when we found him. And I didn't even recognize him. The first time I saw someone send me a picture when he was graduating, I was like, that's not him. I'm like, what are you talking about? And the guy's 180 pounds and, looking good and feeling good. And that's one of the best success stories. And the reason it's a success story, because he had brothers that looked out for him. He got the help. So what did he want to do? He wanted to help back and help other brothers. So that's one of the best stories I have is, and I hope that everybody gets to that point. I really do.
Now, the foundation employs a collaborative approach, as you mentioned, working with government, with service organizations, with churches, private sector. Are there any agencies or organizations in particular here in the Valley you want to give a shout out to or talk about?
I think
there's quite a few. We work with Valor's veteran community with Roe. He started an organization, and they take veterans out. If it's to football games, baseball games, movie theaters and movies or concerts, they started buying bicycles and things like that for veterans. So they go on veterans rides just to get veterans out of that isolation and with other veterans. And there's no combat or anything with them. It's all just, if you're a veteran, you're welcome. And your families used to it all the time are always welcome. They're a great organization. We work hand in hand with Concerned Veterans of America. Those guys are awesome what they do, and if people don't know what they do, they need to look them up, because they're the ones that are fighting for all of our rights with the VA and things like that. And they're an amazing organization. Many others, I mean, really, as VA rep, they help veterans get housing and things like that. They helped me in my transition, going from a job before I started here. You know, when you have those 2 weeks with no paycheck, and you know, we're going from a truck driving job, and my wife had a different job where, you know, we had a pretty decent life and big house, but it wasn't fulfilling. So going to this, I mean, we had to downsize, but we also needed help at that point. And VA rep came in and they found us a house to rent and exactly where we wanted to be. They paid for our move-in cost and things like that. So they're in a great, and there is a lot. And on that, if you're a veteran and you're looking out, do your research. Everything is online. You can find out about the organization that you're looking into. You can look at all their tax documents, things like that. And that's why we kind of started a coalition here with everybody, because we're vetting each other for organizations that have the right heart and the right mind. It's not about the paycheck. It's not organizations that pay their employees, you know, 6-figure bonuses or salaries and things like that. Like, we're not about that. Like, veterans, unfortunately, is a big business, and we don't want to be that. We're here to help, and that is the number one priority, is mental health and helping our veterans. So yeah, it's just due diligence, you know, when you're looking at organizations, but there's a lot of good ones.
Yeah, I was really surprised, you know, once I started getting involved in the nonprofit space, about, you know, just the number of organizations and the people that are out there for self-promotion and, you know, trying to make a quick dollar. Oh, hey, I got this great program, you know, we'll do this for you, we'll do that for you, come talk to us. And next thing you know, they're sliding over a contract across the table, or they want some sort of, you know, retainer. That's not what we're about. The PTSD Foundation has a 3% overhead. And the only person that I can think that's not actually a combat veteran that works for the organization is the accountant, right?
There's a few in the front office, but those are like the spouses of the combat veterans, so they've been through it. So not saying that they're, like, I call them veterans anyway, because my wife has definitely been through it. So yeah, that's why it's amazing.
I would also like to give a shout out to the Arizona Coalition of Military Families. They've been really good to work with. Be connected. They're all tied together, but they've been really good about, as we're a big veteran employer, helping us find veterans, getting veterans into work, and they've been a big supporter of the PTSD Foundation as far as getting media out there, raising awareness about events, or connecting us with other organizations. So, like, there's so many of them. You know, when Adam and I we were sitting down, like, how do we branch out? We're starting from nothing here, right? So it was like, well, let's get connected with all these. You know, not only do we need to fundraise, but most importantly is we're trying to save lives, trying to save veterans. So, you know, we'll really be able to expand quickly on our network if we start to engage and partner with other veteran organizations. So every event that we do, we try to bring in multiple organizations, because, you know, it's not just it's not about raising money or anything like that. I mean, we have overhead that we have to pay for. So yeah, there is a fundraising component to it, but most importantly, like I said, is saving lives, and all, you know, partnering with other veteran organizations. You're now tapping into their network. You know, they know people that are struggling, that need help, or family members that need someone to talk to. So it's really helped us, you know, create a pretty large footprint in a short amount of time.
Yeah.
So what about others who are watching and hearing what you just said and saying, I want to help? Like, this is a cause I really want to get behind. How can the average person support the work of the PTSD Foundation?
Through donations, if that's one way you want to help. We also do volunteer work as well. We're always, if we have events, we need people to run tables and booze. We do some other things we call Warriors of Nature, and quarterly we take out all of our veterans and we go out in the woods somewhere and we go camping. So helping out with food and things like that, so it doesn't cost anything for the veterans. That's like our goals. Like, that's a really good way to help. But I always say the number one way to help support us and the veterans that need help is awareness and just talking about it. I think everybody knows a veteran. We're in that world now where I think everybody knows someone that's a veteran. And so it's just talking and like, hey, reaching out. If you're uncomfortable or you see something wrong with somebody that don't be afraid to ask like how they're doing. And, I saw these guys on this show, maybe you should call them. Maybe they can help you, and that's the biggest support, really. But yeah, donations of all kinds. We've been really blessed since we've been here. I know, Bass Pro Shop, they heard about what we were going to do and take veterans out and stuff like that. And, they donated 15 tents and fishing poles and grills and all that kind of stuff. So it takes community, to help the community. And that's one other thing I love about it is everything that we raise here in Arizona stays here for Arizona. So you're supporting your Arizona veterans. And that's really key, because we try to do a lot. Can't do everything. I wish we could. Maybe in the future we'll be able to have that one-stop shop, but right now we just need to focus on, because it is such a pandemic here. We have 600,000 veterans, 100,000 of those have been diagnosed with PTSD. And that's just in the VA system. And that's one thing I always talk about is that's not the actual numbers. Because as veterans, we know a lot of guys and a lot of my soldiers that went through stuff, they've gone in for 4 years, they did a deployment, and they got into drugs and alcohol because there was a rough deployment, and they got kicked out. Well, now they get zero help. They're not eligible for VA. They're not in those VA numbers, and they're still out there. And that's one thing about our organization is we do not care what your discharge status is at all. We do not care what you've done in your life. Like if you are a combat veteran, and when we say combat veteran, I also want to clarify too, it doesn't mean that you're a trigger puller. If you've deployed to a combat zone, Iraq, Afghanistan, in Gulf War, Vietnam, you are welcome to and you're wanted to join us, because there's so many different aspects that people don't realize that. You can be a computer analyst. Well, guess what? You still got mortared every week, if not more. So you still have those traumas. You still experience what war is. And that's a blessing. It's because that's another thing a lot of organizations don't do. Like, you have to be you need mental health, you have to be honorably discharged. What is that telling the veteran? Except for that he's not worthy and he's not good enough, which he already believes is the case anyway. So that's just being a detriment to their mental health. And I hope by doing things like this that more organizations understand that. And even if it's a slight change where, something, if you've deployed or you've gone through combat and so now we don't care what your discharge status is, we'll help you. That's at least a start. But I hope it gets to a point where none of that matters, where it's like, something you served. Maybe you made a mistake. Maybe you did some things, but you still raised your hand and you still served your country, and they deserve the respect that anyone else of us do. And we need to be able to support them in any way. And I hope that's what happens in the whole nation of stuff. So,
but especially here in Arizona.
Yeah.
Just to touch base on what Adam was saying, we were, 1 in 10 states with a veteran population of over 500,000, with 400,000 of those veterans being wartime veterans. We're close to, I don't know the exact numbers, but I know it's somewhere around like 28 to 30% higher than the national suicide rate for veterans. So there is a big need here in Arizona. And those veterans that are most susceptible are from the ages of 18 to 36. So the Iraq, Afghanistan war veterans are there for some reason. It's really, really spiked up the number of veteran suicides that we're seeing. But Arizona, we're one of the most acceptable states to this, and we're here. We're trying to help. We're trying to make a difference.
And reaching out too, on that aspect, families and family members. If you're hearing this and things like that, you can reach out as well. Even if your veteran doesn't come and not ready for help and not ready to seek out, you can help. You can still get help. You can still reach out. And it's an amazing dynamic when you think about that, because there are many spouses that have done that. They're like, I need help. He doesn't want to do it, but I need help. And then they start joining our groups. in our family support system, and then the veteran starts coming, because now his spouse is, or her or him spouse are going, and they're starting to see a little bit of a difference, or wondering where they're maybe it's even for the wrong reasons, like, oh, I want to know who you're hanging out with on these nights, and they show up, and those people still are here, that have done that. So it's not just the veteran reaching out. If you have a veteran in your life and he needs help and you need help, everybody just reach out, for sure.
Well, thank you both so much for joining us today, and thank you for all you're doing for veterans in our community. We know that our veterans are worthy, and those who need help deserve the help. So thank you so much for what you're doing and for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for having us on.
Thank you for having us.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate that. Absolutely.